And what's up, YouTube? We are here today with another Getting Started, learning the basics of Path of Exile. Today we're going to be talking about skill gems, active and supportive skill gems, and how they work with links in your gear. So first off, I'm here in Act 6. This is Lily Roth. She's somebody that, as you play through the storyline, she basically is a catch-all NPC where you can purchase all of the available gems up until that point in the game that are available for trade or purchase from NPCs are all available at Lily Roth. So if you get to Act 6 and you're wondering, hey, I'm looking for a particular vendor that sells a particular gem for my particular build, or if you're following a build guide or you have a particular gem set up that you'd like to follow or has been suggested to you, then once you get to Act 6 you'll be able to grab it. I know for me, a lot of the times I've been playing for over 2,500 hours, but even I forget, hey, which NPC has that one particular gem that I need for this particular setup? So I use Lily Roth as my kind of catch-all NPC for going to and buying gems. So anyway, with all that being said, there are 3 different types of gems that we're going to talk about today. The first one is going to be active types of gems. Now within active gems there are 2 categories. So active gems are going to be the primary damage dealing skill that you've got, whether that's a spell or an attack. It is going to be the active thing that you use to deal damage. So in a lot of build guides, you're going to see something along the lines of maybe a description that says righteous fire build, or a blade flurry build, or a tornado shot build, or spectral throw build, or a trapping build, which is all the rage right now, or a totem build. So if whatever the description is, a lot of the times they're referring to the active skill gem, the DPS, the thing that's doing the damage. That's oftentimes the hallmark of a build. So active gems have 2 different types of categories. So one is a spell, and you can see here as we sort the different spells, spell gems that Lily Roth has to sell. There are lots of different types of spells in this game, and there are lots of different gems that have the spell tag as well. So what a spell gem generally does is it generally scales its damage with levels. This is the primary distinction between spells versus attacks. Spell gems primarily scale their damage with levels, whereas attack gems, which you can see there are attack gems for sale from Lily, several of them. Most of them are red, but there's some green and some blue as well. Attack gems mostly scale their damage off of your weapon. So this isn't to say that spell gems don't matter or don't care about your weapon, and it's not to say that attack gems don't care about the level of the gem. It's just a general rule that in general spells scale more off of levels and attack gems scale more off of weapons. Now, these are your active gems, your attacks and your spells. So let's take a look at one of them. Here's Glacial Hammer. This is a meme skill. The community in POE has often referred to Glacial Hammer as a meme skill simply because of its power level or lack thereof throughout the history of Path of Exile. But nonetheless, we're going to take a look. It says right in the very top left side, Glacial Hammer Attack. So it is an attack skill. You can see that when you scroll over the gem. Whereas when, let's look at Fireball. Fireball says it's a projectile spell. So it is not an attack, it's a spell. So this means that things, items, as well as passives that interact with spell damage or increases in spell damage are going to interact with Fireball. However, they're not going to interact with Glacial Hammer because Glacial Hammer is an attack, it's not a spell. So if you're looking for a spell-based build, you're looking for spell-based gems as your attack or your active gem. Now, there's also something, a second category of spell, are called support. Support gems. Support gems. So we've got active gems, and that branches out into 2 different types, your attacks and your spells. And then we've got support gems. Now, what support gems do in Path of Exile is they augment or provide utility or provide a power boost to the active skill gem that you are using, whether that be an attack or a skill. So let's take a look at one of these support gems. So let's take a look at, let's choose a simple one, added fire damage. So what added fire damage does, it says right at the very top that it is a fire support gem. So it says this supports any skill that hits enemies. Now attacks hit enemies, which means that you can use added fire damage to hit enemies. Now there are several spells that also hit enemies. There are also a lot of spells that don't hit enemies. But for the purposes of today's discussion, we're going to talk about spells and skills that hit enemies. Added fire damage could be linked to an active skill gem that hits enemies, and supported skills. This means that the active supported gem is going to gain 20% of physical damage as extra fire damage. So that's an additional bonus to your damage. So you can look at your base active gem and say, hey, what's its flat physical damage do? Well, you're going to get 25% of that as extra fire damage, which is awesome. That's great. This is the fundamental way in which DPS scales in Path of Exile. It's having an active gem that is then supported by multiple other gems. So if you look right now, I've currently got a 5 link set up on my Belly of the Beast. This is my incursion character, my incursion Blade Flurry Gladiator. We're level 87 right now, but this applies no matter what level you are. The more links you have set up to your active DPS, the better off you're going to be, because the more support gems you can have going with it. So let's take a look. Here's my active skill gem is Blade Flurry. It is an attack. It's not a spell. So that means in general, it's going to scale more off of my weapon rather than off of levels. It is supported by 4 other gems because it's got links to 4 other gems. It's called a 5 link, which means it has 4 support gems to it and 1 active skill. So it's supported by increased area of effect. This means that my Blade Flurry is going to have a larger area of effect. Supported skills have 46 increased area of effect. It's also supported by Maim support. Notice it's an attack. It says that it's an attack. So Blade Flurry says it's an attack. Maim supports attacks. That's great. That means that if we had a spell build, we couldn't use Maim as a support. It wouldn't have any impact on a spell skill. So supported skills deal 29% more physical damage. Supported attacks have 30% chance to maim on hit, and enemies maimed by supported skills take 14% increased damage. So this is a great example of a support gem that provides damage as well as some utility by providing the ability to maim. Next is our melee physical damage support. It is a support and attack gem. Again, this means that it can support active attack gems. If we were going with the spell build, we would have to go another route. Supported skill deals 48% more melee physical damage, and supported skills deal 48% more damage with bleeding and poison caused by melee hits. So again, we're getting a little bit of utility, but a lot of damage out of that gem. Then we've got chance to bleed. This is again an attack support, which means it is going to augment the current active skill if it is an attack skill, which Blade Flurry is, and its support attacks skills. It cannot support minion skills, which means if you had a minion gem, let's say zombies or specters or SRS, summon raging spirits, you couldn't use chance to bleed to support it. It says supported attacks deal a flat amount of added physical damage with weapons. Supported attacks have 25% chance to cause bleeding, and supported attacks deal 28% more damage with bleeding. So we'll see right here in my tooltip that my damage right now in town is 5660. Okay, that's my tooltip DPS off of Blade Flurry. And if you notice, right next to the words Blade Flurry, there's a bunch of little colored letters. So EMME, that's referencing the different things that are supporting Blade Flurry, all of the different gems. So you'll notice that there's 1 blue gem, and then that was our increased area of effect, and then 3 other red gems that are supporting it. But you'll notice if we take some of these gems out, our DPS goes way down. So now we're at 3,000 flat damage as opposed to 5,600 damage. We just lost 2,600 damage. Why did we lose that? Well, we took out 2 gems. So you see that gems really are the thing, especially support gems, are really the thing that scale your damage in Path of Exile. So this is one of the reasons why having a item that's got 5 or 6 links on it is so important for clearing the second half of the story mode, as well as getting into maps and progressing to the end game, because your DPS really scales off of these support gems that you can use. Now lastly, we're going to look at a third category, which are going to be totems and minions. There's just no other way to group these up, but totems and minions. So totems are skills that oftentimes can support other attacks or spells. And what a totem will do is it will act as basically an area that skill is going to be casted from if it's supported by a skill. So let's say we have, for instance, our Ancestral Protector, which is a totem. You see that in the top left, it says totem. And you see that it says summons an ancestral totem which will attack enemies with melee strikes while you stand close to it. Being near it grants you more attack speed. So it summons a totem which uses this skill. So if you have your Ancestral Protector and you link it with another skill, it's going to deal some more damage. Now, you've also got different types of totems. Okay, so you've got maybe a melee totem, but then you've also got ranged totems. So let's say you're a bow user, let's say you're playing a pathfinder, or let's say you're playing a witch, or let's say you're playing an elementalist, maybe a Templar elementalist, or a hierophant, and you want a ranged attack totem or a ranged spell totem. Right? These are both options. So remember our active skill gems that could be attacks or spells. Well, we've got totems that augment either of those things. The same thing still applies for totems and for minions as for spells and attacks. You want to link it with several other support gems that are going to augment and buff the damage on it. So those are totems. Lastly, you've got minion gems. Those of you that love to play necromancers and control an army of undead. I love to do that. My first Shaper kill ever came on a Spectre build. That's this last category of gems, which are totems and minions. So minions essentially are only going to be supported by specific gems that have minion support tags. So you can see here's Raise Zombie. It says it's a spell, but that it's a minion. And so you're going to be able to augment it with other support gems that say that they are also tagged with the support tag and the minion tag. So there you go. There's your three types of gems in Path of Exile. You've got your attacks, or you've got your active gems, which are categorized as attacks and spells. You've got your supports, which augment and provide utility for your active main damage. And then you've got totems and minions, which act as surrogates for you to deal your damage. So there you go. Hopefully that's a quick explanation on gems and links and how they work in Path of Exile. And hopefully that helps explain to you what exactly it means when people say, do I need a 4 link? Do I need a 5 link? Do I need a 6 link? What is it that people are talking about as they talk about DPS and scaling your DPS with links in Path of Exile? So stick around, give us a subscribe, leave us a comment down below if you've got any feedback on your build or you've got questions, and continue to get better every single day as you play Path of Exile.